If I was to tell you guys that Call of Duty had an open world zombies, some of you, if you haven't played Cold War, might say, what? Where can I play this? When did this come out? Even if you did play Cold War, you may be thinking, well, I wouldn't classify Outbreak as open world zombies. Personally, if you're asking me, it's a strange one because it wasn't exactly advertised as that. As far as I can remember, going back to when this mode came out, nowhere could I find Treyarch actually saying that Outbreak was supposed to be open world zombies. I think that was something that we labelled it as, just because it's so different to standard round-based zombies. When you think of any open world map, you think of one giant big map, but Outbreak wasn't that. It is multiple, or to be exact, 8 different maps which you can play on the same match. That, when you really think about it, is extremely different to what the definition of an open world game mode would be. So technically, Outbreak isn't that. That's just what we called it because, well, it's difficult to describe what this mode even was. What is Outbreak? According to Treyarch, it was just a large-scale zombies experience. So, thinking about it now, over a year later since this mode came out, maybe we judged it all wrong. Perhaps for the people that didn't like this mode, our expectations were too high, and for the people that did enjoy it, maybe you just enjoyed it for what it was, not for what you thought it should have been. I've said this multiple times over the years, perhaps since 2010, since Black Ops 1, 2 things that everyone has asked for was a standalone zombies game, but also an open world zombies experience as well. And even though, as I've just established, Outbreak isn't that, it is the closest we've gotten, and perhaps the closest we're ever going to get. Anyway, what I wanted to do in today's video was go over everything that Outbreak contained, and by the end establish whether this was a good mode, a bad mode, obviously it's all in my opinion, and ultimately try and describe what Outbreak really was. Because there are so many different aspects to it, regions, objectives, enemies, world events, Easter eggs, deeper gameplay details, I don't know where exactly to start with this video, but I suppose I should start where you begin when you load up the game, when you first spawn in. There are a total of 8 different maps: Alpine, Dugger, Galova, Rucker, Sanatorium, Zoo, Collateral, and Armada. You can spawn into any one of these 8 maps, and the basic underlying fundamentals is you simply have to complete a single objective on that map, and then once you've done that, you teleport to the next one. Eventually, depending on how many objectives you complete, depends on how many of these 8 maps you will teleport to. Similar to round-based zombies, there is no end, just how you can go to whatever round you want. You can also go to how many different maps you want to. Once you've travelled to all 8, you will just cycle back through them, but unlike round-based zombies, or should I say unlike round-based zombies previous to Cold War, Outbreak does have an end, which is optional, where you can choose to exfiltrate to end the game. Like I said, you can also do this in round-based zombies for Cold War, but previous Black Ops 4, 3, 2, 1 World at War, round-based zombies was never ending. For me, each region is different, but also the same in terms of these are all basically multiplayer maps. Not one single region that we have here was specifically designed for zombies. That was, which I'm going to talk about later on in the video, one of the reasons why I wasn't too keen on Outbreak, just because it felt more like a multiplayer mode converted for zombies. But there are maps that are better than others. I always found Alpine good, just because of the snow setting, the different levels of terrain, the snowmobiles. That compared to a regular zombies map is quite interesting and different. It's a unique experience, whereas other maps, Dugger, Galova, are more plain and boring. Ultimately, because of this, I do think it's one of the reasons why this mode wasn't as successful as it should have been. If you take your minds back, hearing about an open world, even though we've just established it really wasn't, type of zombies for the first time was very exciting, but the maps or regions that we were given to play in was one of the reasons why it didn't quite hit the heights it should have. But one of the other problems that Outbreak suffered from was it never really gave you the satisfaction or fulfillment of what and I don't know how else to describe it, but an open world or large scale zombies experience should have. I wanted that feeling that I was never safe, that I was being chased all of the time, that there were zombies around every corner, that I had to hide, be sneaky. Basically, I wanted the feeling of survival, but because all of the regions were so empty, the zombies were so spaced out, the groups of zombies that we did have were only small, it's extremely easy to escape them unless you have certain boss zombies such as Tempests. But the regular undead didn't feel like a challenge, which is the main point of the game. Another thing I struggled with was because these maps were taken from multiplayer, that meant that the locations themselves were quite boring. If you think of maps that we've had in zombies, we go back to BO3, BO4, Der Eisendrache, BO2, Mob of the Dead, even Cold War, Mao the Toten, D Machine. Zombies maps, 90% of the time, are amazing to look at. they're interesting. We've had some beautiful zombies locations over the years, but these regions in Outbreak, compared to what we were used to as zombies players, are extremely dull. And so moving throughout the world, whereas on normal zombies it'd be fine because the maps aren't that big, regions are big, they're plain, that combined with having nothing to do, with it being very possible to not find zombies for a long time, moving about the maps was boring. There were other ways to travel around besides from walking though, the main one being vehicles. This added a different aspect to zombies because, well, usually we don't have cars, snowmobiles, trucks in zombies, so that's a fun aspect of it. It's different. I'm sure we've all gotten that feeling where we just want to run over some zombies, but ultimately, besides from there being some world events and Easter eggs you can discover, which after a time get very repetitive, the maps, which is the most important part, just weren't interesting enough, whether it be the look of them or the actual gameplay. So once you've spawned into a particular map, the only way to advance onto the next one was to complete an objective. There were 7 different ones: defend, hold out, retrieve, escort, eliminate, secure, and transport. All of them I think are okay, but what this then meant, because this was the only way you could progress onto another map by completing an objective, by the time you'd reached round 7 or world 7, there is a bit of leeway on this, so it could be a few rounds before, a few rounds after, you start to complete the same objective over and over again. And repeating the same objective over and over again is fine for a game or two, but for anyone who plays Outbreak consistently, this got very boring very quickly. Completing the same 7 objectives on the same 8 maps over and over again was the #1 main problem with this game mode, the repetitiveness. I guess the only way they could have overcome this was to remove objectives, but then what's the point of each and every map if there's nothing to do? So objectives really have to be there. The other fix would have been they should have added a hell of a load more objectives, say 20 to 30, but that also would mean you'd have to have about 20 to 30 regions as well, just so that you weren't visiting the same location and doing the same objective every 7 rounds or so. And this is where, for me, it unfortunately differed to round-based zombies, whereas you could play that mode, just go in, kill zombies, sit back, relax. With Outbreak, unfortunately, completing the same objective over and over again after a short amount of time is tiring. And adding 20 plus objectives, 20 plus maps is also unrealistic. So really, because of the structure that Treyarch decided to take with this mode, it was doomed from the beginning. Perhaps if you're one of those people that likes this type of gameplay, that doesn't mind doing the same thing over and over again, then that's fine, but personally it's not my style. And obviously the third way to have fixed this would have been to just make one giant map, not several regions, but that didn't happen. Just imagine Warzone, but instead of player versus player, it is player versus zombies. That's what it should have been, and hopefully if we do see it again when they have more time, maybe that's what we can get. Some other things that Outbreak introduced was 2 new enemies. We first saw the Krasny and Tempests on this map. Now the Krasny is fine, a bit of a nuisance, but you can avoid them if you want to. However, the Tempests are one of the worst bosses ever, especially on Outbreak, because whenever you want to ride a vehicle, as soon as you go anywhere near one, well, if you've played the game, I'm sure you'll know how annoying it is when it disables your car. All you're trying to do is move across the map, and these things make it impossible. Also, trying to take them out, because Outbreak maps are big, as soon as you shoot them, the Tempests just move further away. Probably one of the worst enemies for maps like this. Another big part of Outbreak was world events. Now these range from different things such as us being able to just find chests around the map, whether them be small, medium or the large ones, containing salvage, essence and stuff like that. Another world event that was quite different was fishing. This was introduced into Outbreak a little bit later on. When I first heard of this being added into the mode, I was like, okay, that sounds interesting. In reality, not so much. It's pretty much a unique way of you being able to get things such as essence or weapons. You can even get wonder weapons, ethereal tools, ammo mods, perks, body armor, stuff like that. But the real world events to me are the different smaller versions of objectives that you can do. These ones aren't mandatory though, they're an option, and these range from the Dragon, the Horde Patrol, the Golden Crate, the Ethereal Orb, the Unknown Signal, Fury Crystal, the Giant Order that you can find roaming the map, the Omega Helicopter and the Black Chest. Honestly, these are a lot more fun than the main objectives. I wouldn't mind if these replaced them and the main ones became the optional ones. The Dragon's fun to do, it's unique, it looks cool, it's pretty quick but also quite difficult. The Golden Crate I don't mind because you can get good stuff from that. The Ether Orb, once you've done it once you don't want to do it again. The Fury Crystal I quite like because of the Fury. The Order is a spectacle Honestly, this would have been much more impressive if we didn't fight Order on the map previous in Firebase C. Depending on which way you look at it, it kind of takes away from either Outbreak or Firebase C, because if Order was unique to Firebase, then you'd have to play that map to experience it, and it is cool. But then when it was added into Outbreak, it kind of takes a little bit of that away. However, seeing this massive creature roam around on these massive maps, it is one of the better ones still. The Omega helicopters, okay. Yeah, like I said, these world events are a lot more fun than the main objectives. Perhaps these should have replaced those, or maybe because they're optional, that's why they are better, because they're not as repetitive. You're not forced to do them. Those are really the fundamentals of what make Outbreak. The only thing I haven't touched on are the Easter eggs. I don't want to go through each and every one, and also each and every step for the main quest, because there are 2 different main Easter eggs for Outbreak. The only thing I will say is the second Easter egg, I think it was, where you fight Order as the boss fight. Yeah, that's trash. And again, having Order as a boss is very underwhelming when he already roams the map anyway. Probably one of the worst boss fights in Zombies history. However, the other Easter egg, where you fight the Tempest in the end, that one was really cool and also challenging. But yeah, those are all of the aspects that make Outbreak. I've got written here a list of the good and the bad. On the good side are really 2 different things. One, the fact that Outbreak is a different pace to what round-based is, so if you ever get bored of round-based, this is an option if you want something slower. The other thing I put on good was the boss fight, and 2 other things were 2 other separate modes that you could have played, which were Outbreak Collapse and Outbreak Survival. And on the bad side of my list, I've put the Tempests. They shouldn't even exist. The fact that the maps are too big, uninteresting, it can be difficult to find zombies, there aren't enough of them, which is strange because Outbreak has unlimited zombies. To round this up, I would say I would love to see Outbreak return in Treyarch's next game in 2023, but totally different to what we saw in its Cold War version. I would like one giant map instead of several different regions. I would like them to make it so it feels like zombies are a constant threat. It's not you having to find them, it's them having to find us. I would also like to see PvP v zombies instead of just PV zombies. I would like to see one team of 4 against another team of 4 against another team of 4 fighting off against the undead. They should introduce more than one team so you can kill each other and the undead. And I think everything else would just come in time. Honestly, if they did it right, it could be good, because like I said, we've all been asking for an open world zombies for a very long time, and even though Outbreak wasn't quite that, maybe it is the first step. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think? Hopefully you've enjoyed the video today. If you have, drop a like rating. Make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest content on the channel. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, goodbye.